we go. Hello, everybody. It's Randy Hilarski here, coming at you from beautiful Panama. Tonight, I have a special guest. I have Waters Above with us to enlighten us on what's going on in the world. It's not all negative. There are positive things going on. And thank you for coming on, Waters. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Randy. I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, me too. We were talking right before we got started, and I was saying how I grew up in a family with a mom who really believed in what Waters Above talks about, and I just kind of used to blow her off, like, this is all furu talk, but then you come back later and you're like, maybe she was right.
Yeah, there's definitely an odd metaphysical, etheric quality to so many things that most people just glaze over because they're not taught about it in the traditional, indoctrination system called school.
Exactly. And no one talked about Shemitah, right? I didn't know it was until
Yeah.
I was like in my 40s.
I have rabbis who contact me who didn't even know what it was until they started following some of the work that I was doing.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, it is spoken of, it is taught, but it's very esoteric and hidden in regards to the way that I'm discussing it, the way that we're discussing it regarding finances and the economy.
Yeah,
If anything, it's very just glazed over in general.
Absolutely. Or they just pretend, they just keep it with the farming side. They just let the crops settle, relax for a year, which is typical farming, right? You're supposed to do that with your crops. You're supposed to let it go for you grow a couple years, then you let it relax or release, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
But it also pertains to finances too.
Precisely. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, rabbis know about it, but they have no idea that there was some sort of connection to the actual markets and the economy and finances, fall of empires, change of power, war, conflict of any kind. So that's kind of what my work was about. Pretty much the last year and a half to 2 years has been trying to get people to get ready for this very moment. And here we are, a week away.
Look, there's my mom. I knew you'd wake up one day.
Shout out to your mom, man. Shout out to your
mom. Yeah, I was we grew up in a pretty religious household, evangelical. So we were always around we had Messianic Jew friends, and I had a lot of Jewish friends growing up. I grew up in Rochester, New York, we have a large Eastern European population. A lot of them are Eastern European Jews. So I always had the fascination with the religion, and I don't know do you know who Jeff Berwick is? A dollar vigilante.
Yeah, I'm aware. I probably haven't watched any of his content in a year and a half to 2 years. It's been a while for me, just because what I saw was like a repeated content of just walking around taking like with a and nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just for me, I just didn't have the time. It's just a little long and pretty repetitive. So
I was my wife and I were his social media team for about 4 years.
So really?
Okay. Yeah, so that's where it comes from. So the first time I ever heard of Shemitah was when I really first got to know Jeff, was in 2015, and he was talking about it and discussing what's going to happen with the end of Rosh Hashanah and with Shemitah. And he was right. It wasn't that bad of a Shemitah year, but he was right. It dropped 15% on the day. The market did. So I after that, I started paying attention. I knew this one was coming. And then I saw your video that you did with, what's his name? Crypto Coffee. And I said, oh my God, this brought it right back to my face. I said, I got to start paying attention. I have to do my own content about this because I do have some knowledge, right?
Yeah. No, the 2015, 2016 move was definitely isolated to the Asian markets, to the Chinese market particularly. So that is one thing, and one piece of education for people that are learning about these 7-year sabbatical cycles is that there are isolated incidences where it doesn't affect the entire market. But when it comes back to the Federal Reserve and anything regarding finances, central banking, it's going to be effective for all people. But the real big monumental crashes tend to be spread out in 3 cycles. So to make sense of this, a Shemitah is, it's a 7-year cycle, but then every 3 cycles of 7 is a 21 year. And that 20, you could think of it like the jackpot, the 777.
Yes.
And then we have like the ultra Shemitah, which is a 50-year cycle. It's 7 cycles of 7. And then on the 50th year, you have biblical jubilee.
Right.
So in my work is trying to get people to be prepared that Biblical Jubilee is actually going to be 2023.
Yes, exactly. And there was somebody that was arguing, saying that there's no such thing as a 50th year. But from what I'm understanding, the first year of the next 7 year cycle is actually the Jubilee year. That's what I was taught. I don't know if
Correct.
that's right.
So yeah, so it's 7 cycles of 7, which is 49 years, and
Mhm.
it is practiced on the 50th year, starting at the end of that Shemitah after Rosh Hashanah.
Right.
So Rosh Hashanah is like this 3 day window that'll be the 25th through 27th. And technically, it should be starting this biblical jubilee should be starting on the 27th of September. So literally like 6 days away.
Okay. I
And
actually thought it was Yom Kippur, but which is October 5th, but whatever. It's still same weeks, right?
oh
Right
yeah,
around.
you're talking. Yeah, of course. I mean, you're still pretty accurate because it's within like 2 weeks. So
Right.
yeah, yeah. And Yom Kippur is definitely a part of the conversation as well. It plays a big role in this. So that's great that you brought that up
Whew,
because
got chills.
very few people bring that up to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really going to be taking a lot of my time over the next couple weeks to be giving people as much content as possible regarding this because I've been talking about it for so long. And now that we're finally approaching, it's like amazing because this is an opportunity of a lifetime. It only comes around once every 7 years. And the reason I say lifetime is because most people will let 3 to 4 or 5 of these go by without even noticing that there were an opportunity. Because every time we approach them, the mainstream media and the controllers that be indoctrinate people and get them fearful and make them not want to buy the dip. And my community and hopefully your community will be there waiting to scoop it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. And think about the Jubilee. This is the only other one I'm going to see in my lifetime. The last time we had one, I wasn't even born yet. So likely won't see another.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that.
So that I made a video over on my Patreon called Jubilee Decoded, which was a part 2 decode video where I utilized Gematria, numerology, and astrology with the technical analysis. And in that part 2 video, I really isolated into this Jubilee conversation. And I was able to actually show people like my rhyme and reason behind why I see it happening in 2023. And it has everything to do with the 1971 to 1975 market, where we had the Nixon shock in 71. Then we had 2 years later the start of what was called the 1973 to 1975 recession. So I see us going into a very similar thing where we're not going to have a Great Depression. That's not coming now. We're not going to have a dollar. Well, this is, of course, my truth, and I'm willing to
Okay.
have a deeper dialogue on this. But I do not think we're going to have a dollar collapse necessarily soon, but we will have a mini recession, like a 2023 to 2025 recession. And during that 2 years, we will actually see liquidity flow into the crypto market. It'll be a very odd event. And we might also have the what a lot of us have been waiting for, which is like the shitcoin market to go away. And a lot of that stuff might go to zero. And if it goes to zero, we're going to see that liquidity flood into the utility projects and stuff that has a use case. And it'll be very akin to the dot-com bubble.
Okay. All right. That's fair. And we've been expecting that for a while. Remember after 2017, everyone's like, it's over. Or
Right.
2018, it's over. The chip coins are going away. Yeah, maybe it's
Yeah.
finally here.
Well, Randy, I mean, and you said that you were like an OG crypto, person, and that's great because we could have this conversation. There was a lot of things that went to zero in that 2018 correction because Ethereum and XRP both lost 95% of their
Yes,
value,
it did. Yes, it did.
and of course Bitcoin lost 85%. That was huge for a coin with that much market cap. But furthermore, we did see a lot of stuff actually go to zero, and the difference between now and then, and I know we could both agree on this, is nobody was walking around with iPhones that had apps that they could just buy crypto in the supermarket or while they were waiting for gas to fill up in their car. So today we have a much different environment for retail, where retail is a lot more primed and ready because of things like Shiba Inu, all the drama and all like the just getting people into it so easily. Crypto.com app was a huge, UFC was promoting it. All of these little things are something to take into consideration behind like what's happening. So I look at this crash as more of the dot-com bubble than the 2017, 2018 market.
Okay. That's fair.
But it's just because of the holistic kind of like thing that I've been discussing. And of course, I'm isolating this to crypto. I'm not talking about all of the tech stocks will actually go through these crashes because the Fed is probably going to buy up a lot of the things that go to zero that are really going to crash during the next big move to the downside. I mean, they have already admitted that they'll buy Apple if it needed to, like
Oh, really?
that's how
Okay.
fraudulent this whole game is. So yeah, the Fed is allowed to buy up companies. They could pretty much do whatever they want. There's no mechanism in place that prevents them, which I believe it should be illegal, but I don't run the country, so it doesn't matter what I think.
Do you remember when they bought Chrysler? And I think it was 2008. That was
Yeah, so
something else.
so they're gonna do things very similar where they could leverage on these bailout scenarios and kind of pull off whatever they like. And we might also see mergers of companies where you see maybe Ethereum or some foundation around them. And of course, this is speculation, but it's just to kind of open up some of our minds into the possibilities. But you could see Ethereum swallow up Cardano. You might be able to see like actual mergers of blockchain companies and all of the foundations surrounding them. We don't really know. We could see companies that start to fail, and their only way to stay afloat would be to sell off to central banks and the Fed. And I think that's kind of what they want, anyways. They want to tokenize. They want to tokenize the stock market. They want to own everything. They already own the entire housing market. They have your pensions and 401ks. So the next thing is just resetting the market, and as they do every 7 years, because that's all the Shemitah really is. It's like a market reboot.
Yep. Yeah. If people knew that, I think they pay attention more. And also the big one that I'm noticing in this year was the farmers. They're trying to bankrupt the farmers so they can take over the farms. You saw that happen in the Netherlands. It's happening in Canada, and I think it's going to start happening in the U.S. as well.
Yeah, we're seeing socialism. Like I was talking to my mom 2 years ago, and I told her, like, we're gonna have a massive bull run, and she was like, "How do you know?" And I'm like, "Well, the Fed is admitting that they're about to print all this money, so the market goes up when they do that." And she was like, "Well, what else do you think is really going to happen?" I was like, "Well, you're going to see socialism for the first time in America, and a lot of the first world. You're going to see them reveal themselves from behind the curtain, and they're finally going to step in front of the stage." And I believe since the CDC, World Health Organization, and all the other, including as well as the central banks in this conversation, and then now with what you just brought up with the energy crisis we're having in Europe, plus with the farmers, I mean, this is pretty obvious, right? They've been doing a lot of these little tactics in Australia and New Zealand with what you just said. But now we're going to start seeing it in, Nebraska, Montana, the Dakotas. You're seeing it in the Netherlands, obviously, in Belgium. I mean, so you're totally right, and it's something to keep an eye on. The problem is the solution is very odd, because I look at it not necessarily like we're going to have food shortages. I believe we're just going to have people are going to be priced out of the foods that they used to buy. And that's a different thing, So when everyone's yelling food shortage, I'm kind of thinking like a chess player, and I'm saying, no, your loaf of bread is just going to cost 150% more. Cheese is just going to cost 480% more. Gasoline is just going to cost 700% more. Yeah. That's not a shortage. That just means that they're utilizing that instrument, that they always utilize to create chaos, destabilization, make people change their behavior. And then the people who are paying attention and prepared years in advance, for you, it's just like, as I say, another day in the Matrix.
Yeah, Hexgoon made a good point here. He said they have been stepping out for the past couple of years. They sure have. They've been showing us their moves, right?
Yep.
That's crazy. So, okay, could you? I've been doing this for, I think this is 22 days now. Every night I've been explaining what Shemitah is, and where my knowledge lacks is what's going on with the jubilee. So if you want to, could you give us a quick little rundown of what's happening with Shemitah, and then from your point of view, and then go into the jubilee, because everyone's got questions about it, including me. There's so little information out there besides going back to 1972, 73, and that time frame when that last jubilee happened, and we had the dollar was changed from gold backed to fiat. Roe versus Wade abortion was made legal. End of the Vietnam War. But this time, looks like we may have a bunch of other new stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, if you've been doing this for 20 plus days, and that means they're well aware of the Shemitah, right? Is there something specific about the Shemitah that you'd like me to fill in on before I move into the Jubilee?
Just like a quick recap from your point of view, instead of just hearing my point of view all the time.
Okay, yeah, of course.
Maybe if they match, great. If they don't, okay, then maybe we can have a little conversation about it.
Yeah. Well, every we have to look at it from a 3-year time horizon. That's the way I look at the Shemitah. It's the year before, the year during, and the year after. So the year before is just as important as the year that comes after it. Meaning we could actually look at what happened in 2021 as sort of like the precursor of what got out of control and what's about to become, let's just like say there's going to be homeostasis again. There's going to be a moment of where it equilibrates. And I believe that everything that had these meteoric rises are going to have noticeable corrections, and we're just going to see liquidity kind of level itself out. So for me, cryptocurrency got to see 20,000, 30,000, 70,000, 150,000% gains in some of these coins. A lot of that I don't think we're going to see in the next cycle. I think this was like one of the last cycles we're going to be seeing those insane, blow off top, really exaggerated moves. But what we also saw in this cycle was some coins that were like the OG projects that made it through 2018. They actually did not do so well. Like, we didn't really see XRP do that well. Dash,
Dash. I always talk about Dash as a good
and
example.
and even actually Ethereum didn't do that great, for the fact that Ethereum had an 95% correction and recovery. Like, yeah, it broke out to a new all-time high, but it by no means did anything like mind-blowing. So the way that I'm looking at this Shemitah is I think we're gonna move the entire economy over blockchain. We're gonna watch the economy transition into a blockchain-based economy, and in that we're also going to see blockchain become part of our everyday lives. Like every single aspect of our reality is going to start to move in that fashion. And that's where we're really going to see the socialism that we're talking about. We're going to see things like social credit, your social worth. We're going to start to see that kind of foundation be laid out over the Jubilee year. So the Jubilee year is kind of like the year to show us the carpet we're all about to walk down.
Okay.
It's like paving a way for what 2024 and 2025 will be like. But after 2024, I think we're actually going to see like great things again for anyone who took advantage of 2023 and 2024. The problem is how will our world look then? Like none of us could really predict that. But getting back to this idea of the Shemitah, it isn't easy to say what's going to get hit the hardest. And that's why I said it's much better to analyze what did the best. And then that way you could kind of assume based off of that. So look at housing in 2006, 2007. Well, that was the market that took the biggest hit in 2008, right?
Yes.
You look at
yes.
the bond market in 93, and just kind of look at it from this perspective. So I personally think that tech stocks and all the indices are due for a much larger correction. Cryptocurrency has already taken quite a hit, though. Like if you look at some altcoins have already made 95% corrections, right? We've even seen one of the top altcoins, Terra Luna, pretty much go to zero.
Bye-bye.
So that's the kind of shit that you're going to start see happening. And anyone who's following my work, you'd know that. I mean, I've been talking about this is the year to expect that kind of stuff. This is the year to expect, the unexpected. And when we get to September and particularly November 7th of this year, that's when you're going to start to see this show up much more frequently. What you saw happen with Terra Luna is going to be like an every other week event for other things in our reality. So yeah, I would just say that during the end of the Shemitah is typically when you historically have your biggest market crashes. So that means after Rosh Hashanah. And what you brought up about Yom Kippur, that could very well be another part of that conversation, but I'll help your guests out even more and say that it's the eclipses that follow after the Shemitah. So a classic example would be 1987, Black Monday.
Okay.
Happened in October. The Shemitah was over. We actually saw one of the few markets of our time that went up the entire Shemitah. It just looked like a roller coaster. Then it got to those eclipses and boom, just done. One of the largest, quickest wipeouts we've seen of the indices ever in that speed of time too. So one of the things that I've been talking a lot about, and perhaps your community is aware of this stuff too, is comparing this market and this reality we have today, minus the technologies, to the Spanish flu. And this is how I was able to, I don't like using the word predict, but this is how I was able to determine that the pandemic would end in May of this year, because Spanish flu lasted 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. And that 222 sequence, that 222
Okay.
sequence is very powerful, because if you go to the time span between the 9/11 and you bring it all the way over to the start of the pandemic in March 11th of 2020, you're going to see that was 222 months to the day. And what year
That's
are we in?
nuts.
We're in the year 2022. We're in the Hebrew year of 5,782, which adds up to 22. We just had Pluto's return happen on 2/22/2022. We had Platinum Jubilee starting in February, which is the second month of the 2/22 year. So all of these twos, it's absolutely mind-blowing when you analyze this. So my bigger point here is that, I'm actually kind of considering now, like 2 months and 2 days after the Shemitah, or 2 months and 22 days after the end of the Shemitah, that is when we're going to have the completion of like big market chaos. And this is my way of timing it using numerology and just, all the other more esoteric components of the matter. So, with that being said, that's going to be the first 2 months and 22 days of Jubilee. And it'll be like they're going to do a hard stop, really important move in the beginning. This is a fear play, and they're probably going to leverage on some sort of event. Now, I
Yeah.
can't tell you what the event will be, but I do think it'll be something that will give them rhyme and reason to push whatever new agenda they would like,
We
just
were
like they
talking
did with
last
everything
night,
else.
Waters. We were talking about last night about the cyber polygon. Remember how they were talking about shutting down the internet, or like an internet worldwide where nothing's working? And
Mhm.
they did the war games for that in 2021. I think it was July, and it was put on by the WEF, just like they had the event 201 in September prior to the pandemic. So that's what I'm guessing on.
You
That's
think
where
it's
I'm
going
putting
to
my
be?
chips. A
You think
cyber
it's going
thing.
to be some sort of cyber? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think about it, right? They moved everyone so comfortably into this technocratic kind of realm where most people, all of their communications are through social media, and things like WhatsApp, and all of their entertainment is things like TikTok and Twitter and YouTube. So yeah, you think about since March of 2020, the whole world has kind of just accepted this new way of life. I mean, even people that I know that are 70, 80 years old, they're like pros at using smartphones now. Like they're
Yeah.
complete pros at it. They have so you look back 3 years ago, and most people of that generation didn't really care to play around with apps and social media accounts and all this stuff. And when you're forced into that world, that's your only form of communication. Well, then, think about it, right, Randy? It's a lot easier to slaughter the cows when they're all moving in the same direction.
Yes.
When
Yes.
you have 100 cows moving in 100 directions, it's a lot harder to call them in.
And they're desperate. They'll. I have to tell you, I went downstairs earlier. I took my son to the park, and we walked down to the main road over here, and got some dinner. And I was asked 10 times for money, and I'm never at
Wow.
that prior to COVID. That never happened. So the poverty is coming, and it's just going to take a little bit of a kick to turn this into something really big around the world. And that's what's worrying to me as a father, and as a
Yeah.
husband. Um, I We got 6 months of supplies in the house, 6 months worth, just in
Yeah.
case we just have to lock that door and just stay inside for 6 months until things calm down. Yeah, it's quite worrying.
Well, I think it's beautiful that you have a family and that you're aware and that you have this knowledge and wisdom about what's going on, because you know how many people don't have that, brother. You know
90,
how many people
95%. Pareto's
Yeah.
law, bro. Pareto's law,
Yeah.
80-20 rule.
Yeah. So like, I honor all the parents out there and all the people that are deciding to accept that this is a truth, and like this is not a time to be asleep. Like you've been getting the signs for the last 2 years that like shit's about to come. So, and I'll go even further than that. I remember back when we were in October, November, when we had Event 201. I don't know if you're aware of that, Event 201.
Yes. Yeah.
But when we had Event 201, I already knew about this, and I was telling people, all these people that were personal, like family members, people that were like close to me, and I was like, "Hey guys, your world's about to change." And they were like thinking I had a tinfoil hat on, and I'm like, "This isn't to be a conspiracy. Like I'm trying to help. I'm giving you a life preserver, and you're stabbing it with a knife."
Yeah.
And like, I could articulate with almost zero emotion just pure facts about why it's going to change. I don't even need to give you numerology. They've told you what they're going to do, like Rockefeller lockstep. They're not hiding anything from you. They gave you Cyber Polygon. They gave you Event 201. Like they're showing you, they're giving you all of the. So the thing is you need to enter like a state of consciousness where you're at bliss in life, where whenever these moments come, you know how to respond instead of react. And that's what my work truly centers around. It's not about like becoming the best investor isn't being great at TA or about dollar cost averaging or about like knowing how to research a project. It's about emotional stability and knowing how to respond to the market that you're given.
Yeah, or just take the emotions out of it, which I've become really good at. I think 3 bear markets was enough to make me callous enough not to have emotions, right? So yeah, this is my
Yeah.
3rd bear market, and this time I'm just like, hee. Let's
Yeah.
just live life. Let's have. We already know, okay, we got to cut a little bit of spending and those kind
Yeah.
of things. Just spend more time at the park rather than spending money at the mall or whatever. But yeah, I don't mind. I know another bull market will happen. No worries.
Yeah, well, you have to create a life in which you're living your life. Like investing is not life.
No,
Investing should be like a tertiary thing in your reality. Like it shouldn't even be a secondary thing. It just doesn't, there's no joy in this. Zero joy. If there's
especially
joy
trading.
that, yeah,
Trading.
if you get joy from it, then when it goes against you, you're going to get upset and you're going to be depressed and you're going to be anxious. You're going to be mad. That's like anything. You should get joy from like your children. You should get joy. Yeah, that's what you should get joy from.
Yeah, I totally agree. I saw a TikTok, I think it was yesterday, where a lady, she was showing images of herself in the future and her complaining about herself in the past, about her kids running around the house, making a mess and stuff. But in the future, she was by herself on the couch, just eating some
Yeah.
cereal. And man, it was so emotional. I'm like, this is why I love TikTok. you
Yeah.
know, so, having our kids jumping on us and annoying the hell out of us,
Yeah.
at one
Actually,
time it's going to
Randy,
end.
that's one of the things that I try talking a lot about on my Friday live streams. Like when our market was moving up and down as they are. And in my live streams, I don't talk about crypto that much, but whenever I do, I try to make it, more of that conscious perspective. And I've gotten so much feedback from people, and it makes me so grateful to have this platform. But I've gotten so much feedback from people that used to be like addicted to staring at charts. And now they're like, now I have all this extra time for my family because of the way that I'm talking about this market, like the way I'm trying to get people to like go back to life, like I really want people to start living again because that's what changes the world. Like the elite, the apex predator, what royalty, whatever you want to call these people that are the stewards of this matrix, they desire you to do nothing. They want you to live in fear. They want you to sit there inactive. They don't want you like being in the now moment, present. They want you everywhere but the now. So that way you're focused on yesterday's trauma and tomorrow's anxiety. And if you're there, you're never here. And that's what makes it so people could have all this beauty right in front of them. They could have their children, they could have their wife, their friends, their family. But during the bull market and the bear market, if that's their priority, they're going to let all that other shit slip through their hands. And it's like
Yeah,
you're just going to watch years and years and because I know traders that have been trading all the way since the 90s and they've admitted this, and their life has fallen apart because they do this regimen every day, 9 to 4, just on the charts. And it's like, man, like I don't feel bad for those people, but I hope that there's a lesson learned, like you just said before, with that lady that is like self-reflecting and looking back to a time where, her kids going crazy in her house and dropping cereal on the floor was probably like the most life that individual experienced in the last 10, 20 years. It's kind of sad,
exactly.
actually.
I had this conversation with my friend David. He's a Levi, Jewish. The last name Levi, which was the priest, right? I
Hmm.
just throw that in there because that's his last name. And we were talking one day, and he said to me, he goes, Randy, he goes, no, the biggest thing that disappointed me growing up was the fact that my father spent all the time trading in front of the computer. And if he won on the days he won, he was happy. On the days he lost, he was pissed off, and he
Yeah.
would take it out on us. And I said, David, that's really sad. His dad passed away during the CV thing, but I just remember that every time I talk to him like that. What a sad way to think of your childhood. Oh, my dad was a trader, and the emotions of the trading affected the family, and I don't want to have to do that. Right? Don't want to do that.
It's a thing. It's a thing. And like when you add the pandemic part to it as well, when people were just locked at home, it gave them even more time. And, you know, That's why for me, I always tell the people that are following my work, if you're going to look at charts, I need you to be learning the skill of technical analysis. Like if you're not actually applying the skill of TA or learning how to trade at all, then you're just staring at candlesticks going up and down.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you're seriously wasting, no offense, but you're wasting your time, because unless you're responding to the market with buys and sells or actually learning the skill of how to, decode the market in any way, shape, or form, whether that's TA or something more esoteric, um, you know, it's actually you're probably better off watching a movie. At least that's true entertainment.
Exactly.
like it's seriously, it's a condition that people struggle with when they get into crypto and they get into the market, especially crypto, because crypto's 24/7, 365. It's very volatile. It has all this. And then people have all these apps with the notifications. Oh, XRP went up 5%. It's like, you got to shut that off, man. Like, it's an addiction.
It doesn't do anything for you. 5%, most of the time, 5%, you're not going to trade on it anyways. In
Right.
crypto, we're addicted to the 100x or the 50x, 20x.
10,000%. Yeah.
Yeah, so that 5% is going to give you a little bit of a dopamine hit. Ooh, that felt good. But then it goes
Right.
down 10% next 5 minutes. It's just like you're on this roller coaster ride, and it's not good for your health. Like I was telling you in the green room, I was a psych nurse, and I saw that. I saw people, drug addicts, and people who would take their painkillers. We always knew our addicts on the floor were the ones who we give them their painkillers, and they would chew it up, and instead of taking it normally, and they'd be done, and they'd want painkiller again in 30 minutes, right? And you're like, oh God, we got an addict tonight.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do with this person? They just want their dopamine hit. So
Right.
yeah, it's a sad existence for trading, guys. Stay away from it. Find ways to get yield if you don't want to trade. I actually use Aurochs. I used to be on the Aurochs team, which is the competitor to TradingView, and they have a really good indicator. And I show everybody on my streams at night how I do that. And if you wanted to, you could trade 6 times a year just on the buy indicator or the sell indicator. Just go the monthly and don't bother with anything else, and you'll be fine. So you make 6 trades a year. Wait for that signal to come up, and you're good to go. So trying to trade, I see people trying to do 15-minute charts, 13-minute charts.
Yeah.
Are they insane? Absolutely insane.
Yeah, no, I know, I've been there because I was a professional trader before I was doing the YouTube thing. So I was a
Okay.
professional trader and a consultant for people with finances, portfolio building, developing investment thesis. So yeah, I totally get it, man. Like I used to, the reason I could articulate it the way I do and I could warn accordingly is because I've been there, done that. But I did it because I did it because I had a desire to put some money in my bank account. I needed to take care of my family. I needed to feed myself, and I had e-commerce businesses that got shut down because of the pandemic. And what am I going to do? Like, I'm not going to wait around for a savior. I'm going to change my life if I need to. But I could tell you something that was different about me, perhaps, is I was sitting there for 14 to 16 hours on the charts, learning TA and teaching myself that skill. I wasn't waiting around for people to give me signals. Like,
Exactly.
that's really
Exactly.
so many people, they get caught up in watching YouTubers live stream trades or whatever, and like they're never. Yeah,
Telegram
you need,
groups.
yeah, learn the skills. I was telling people this a little bit earlier with another interview that I was doing about how people, when they're driving a car, they get anxious about like maybe having a flat tire, and it's like all that time that you're feeling that anxiety. How about you just go pull up a YouTube video, learn how to fucking change the tire on your own, and then when the time comes, you could take care of it. Like, why people become way too, um, let's just say this to keep it positive. There's like no desire to be self-sufficient anymore.
No, there isn't, and it's very sad. It really is sad. I just bought a bunch of stuff the other day. I'm insane. Okay. I've gone off the deep end lately, but I've been buying. So I bought buckets the other day to make composting toilets because I don't want to, in case the water system breaks.
Yeah.
I've got the solar oven. I've got the battery packed with the solar panels. I've got all that stuff just in case the shit hits the fan. We're good for a
Yeah.
little while, you know? Yeah, it's so
Well, I
funny.
mean, I think you're thinking about, you don't look sad. You don't look angry or
No,
depressed or anything. It looks
no,
like,
not at
I
all.
mean, you have a family, you have a kid. You're just thinking about taking care of your family, man. Like, that's great. A lot of
Yeah.
people, actually, this comes full circle to exactly the conversation around Shemitah. If we could like astrally project back to 2008 or back to 2001 or back to any of these times, we're going to have like, 90% of people plus are not prepared at all. Like they're really not prepared. Now think about that with people who had open trades or did have positions before those big crashes, right? Because when we talk about trade, like when we talk about people who are invested, this is a very small percentage of the overall population. Now, if you're talking about crypto investors, that's even tinier of a percentage. So, but this is where the conversation, we could really narrow it down, and it has a lot of utility for us here, is that most people aren't ready for this. So they're going to panic sell. And when that moment comes, when they do that, wow, you're going to see new depression. You're going to hear about suicide. Like, I mean, even with Terra Luna, I was hearing about people committing suicide all the time. And I know this is a dark subject, but it's like, guys, you need to pay attention to this work that Randy and I are sharing, because, it's not only about the preparation, it's about, this isn't like a conspiracy. This is something that happens every 7 years. And instead of sitting there holding the bag, you could be taking advantage of starting to build a bag.
Yeah, absolutely. Be ready for it. Crypto AO says, Waters Above, what's a good place to start for a newbie like me? All this can be overwhelming, Shemitah and all that. I mean, start at Waters Above Patreon. Go over to his Patreon.
Well, yeah, I really appreciate that, Randy.
No problem.
Well, a good starting point would be, what is it actually that you're trying to achieve? Like, are you trying to become somebody that is an investor? Are you trying to, learn more about history? Like, I mean, it really just depends. I don't know. For me, I was interested in mythology. I was interested in a lot of esoteric things regarding lunar cycle and, tropical sidereal astrology, all these other things. And it came to this apex with crypto all at the same time. It was like a mistake, actually. And I developed my own system. But furthermore, I mean, a good place to start is to just know your target. If you don't have a target, then how do you know where you're going to get going? So that could be as easy as, is it a dollar amount? Is it like to achieve a certain, like to pay off your home? What do you want to do? You know how many people I ask, like, who tell me they want something, but they don't even know what their numbers are. I ask people, I'm like, how much does your life cost per month? Like, do you know how
They have
much
no
your rent,
idea.
they can't tell me. And then I say to them, well, that's actually the problem, because no matter what answer I give you, what's your target? It's like shooting a bow and arrow into the woods.
Yeah.
Like the
All I hear
arrow
is
can go anywhere.
gone.
Yeah, right. So of course I'm not directly talking to just this one person. It's just everyone in general. Like, what I would do right now, if you don't know your numbers, if you don't know any of that stuff, when you're done on this podcast, you have to go get some pen and paper, calculator. You have to add up all that shit. You need to know what your numbers are. And I actually, in my exit strategy blueprint, which is a very cheap, short course that I have over on my website, watersabove.com, it's about like $45, $55. And it goes through how to exit the market effectively, like with technical analysis. But another thing it does is it tells people how to program the numbers. So like, how much money for your lifestyle, for your goals, etc., should you be de-risking? Because that's the big thing, right, Randy? Like, people hold these portfolios. They don't know when to sell, and they don't know how much of it to sell. They don't know how much of it should be a long-term hold. They don't know how much of it they need to de-risk at that moment, right? So like,
Yeah,
when
I
we
made that
saw,
mistake too. I made the same
right,
mistake multiple
when we
times.
saw Zilliqa go up to 23 cents, like, I sold on that 23 wick in my
Oh yeah.
sleep. But it was because I did TA, and I had that all planned out. And I knew the exact amount of Zilliqa tokens that I wanted to sell for that particular trade. I didn't have to think, because I did the planning. I had the blueprint, right? And if it executes, then great. If it doesn't execute, then you could kind of like, refine the process from there. But what I will say is, like, it is much better to have that plan.
Yes,
Like,
always have a plan. Always.
and you're not going to have a good plan if you don't know your numbers. Like,
Yeah,
so it's like, it's multifaceted.
my perfect example was Hex last year in September, right after the pulsechain sacrifice ended, and I had a very large Hex stake coming due. And all I said was, okay, whatever the price is on that day, when that stake Hex comes due, that's what I'm selling it for. I had a plan. I wasn't going to play around, because I didn't want the price to start moving bad on me, because the price is already doing really well, and we were already way up on the year, already like 1,000x for us in that particular stake. So I sold it. It was at 44 cents that day. So people are like, oh my God, Randy, you sold it near the top. Yeah. I just stuck to my plan.
Right.
Just sold and I was out. That was it.
Yeah. When you make a plan, you have to trade that plan. And I know we're obviously not talking about leverage trading, but just as simple as selling, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got to take profits, people. You have to.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I'm always warning people, if I see something flying up, I'm like, guys, please stay calm, take profits.
yeah. It's actually a big part of the addiction. It's like hot hand syndrome at the at the like gambling casino. You know, you win a couple, and what I say by winning, a lot of people don't win in this market. They're making money, quote unquote, like on paper, you know, because their portfolio is going up during this like during these parabolas, but they're never selling. They're never selling along the way. They're never actually truly winning trades. So that's really what's funny is like so many people think they're smart when and or like you know, they're like hot shit during a bull run, but when the actual prices start keeling over, they start getting nervous and they don't really
Yep.
know what to do. I think a classic example of this stuff is like the bull traps that come during a post blow off top. You know, Bitcoin did this back in 2018. It really finessed people, but it led to that alt season. So, you know, I mean, it's just beautiful when you take a step back and you just analyze these charts and see what's going on. You could actually see these big moves and kind of determine. In my work, I'm not sure if you followed along enough, but I use Wyckoff method,
Yep.
and Wyckoff method is something that's helped me a lot. Kind of. Oh, so that is another answer back to that other individual. If you are asking a question based on where to start with technical analysis, I mean, outside of you know the work that I've been sharing, like Richard Wyckoff's Wyckoff method, I think is an amazing place to start for beginners.
Thank you for that. That's and the Wyckoff method was designed almost 100 years ago, right? Or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that.
Richard Wyckoff was alive over 100 years ago,
Yeah.
and his methodology was brilliant. And it's funny too because when I started my crypto mastermind course back in September of 2020, before the bull run actually kicked off, I was showing people on the Bitcoin chart how when Bitcoin went up into September, there was this what I call a SOS, a sign of strength. And if you go back to the Bitcoin chart from 2020 and you see it had this like Bart Simpson head where it went up for Rosh Hashanah and then it came back down, and then it had this stagnation for like 2 months, and then it ripped into November after the around Thanksgiving time in the United States of America. But anyways, my bigger point was I was telling people with a side by side Wyckoff schematic that we just went through the SOS. Now we're having a backup phase, and Bitcoin was trading like around $9,000 to $10,000. And there was so many analysts coming out at that time saying, nope, this is going to go down lower, because they were coming out with like pandemic news, like saying like the case outbreak and this, that, and the third. And I was telling people, no, this is a Wyckoff backup phase. This is the greatest time to buy crypto, and it's the final moments to buy crypto, because when you study the Wyckoff method, the backup is moments before we go parabolic. And this isn't isolated to crypto. We're talking about 100 years of this pattern, and it's not going to copy through every market exactly the same. Meaning, there's a cycle that's extended in the stock market to about 6 years, whilst in crypto, it's about like a 3.5 to 4. And I'm not debating that it'll be like this forever. I'm just saying thus far, this is what it's been.
It's been getting longer each time, each cycle,
Slightly,
right?
correct. But it has everything to do with the halving, right? Like when
Right.
you study the position of the halving and the market that we're given around that date holistically, like everything from the altcoin dominance, Ethereum, Tether dominance, XRP dominance, all of that stuff, Bitcoin dominance, plus the actual price action, you start to see like, oh my God, the halving is like the greatest time to invest. And if you look at Wyckoff method in combination with all of those halving cycles, I should actually make a video on this because I think it'd be very visually helpful for people. I'll make a video on this idea soon. Just
It'll
taking
fly. It'll fly in the algorithm. Yeah, I'd recommend you do it.
yeah, it'll be a video basically committed to the idea of timing the market with halvings, which has everything to do with the actual blockchain technology itself, the algorithmic base, and then as well as the Wyckoff method, which is a more technical, and then I'll add in the more esoteric piece, which is like the 4-year cycle, the 2-year cycle, and that I think that'd be an awesome piece of art to release, because more people just want to know, like, how do I make this more simple? How do I make this more simple? And I've already done my due diligence to talk about the Shemitah, which has saved a lot of time for people, because you don't need to get super involved. You just know Rosh Hashanah it's a stagnant date. Like it does change every year depending on lunar cycle, but ultimately you can look right now and find every Rosh Hashanah till the end of time. And you could just map out, okay, this is the 7-year cycle. This one is ending. Therefore, it's a good time to start building positions. Then we go up for 7 years. Then you want to de-risk. Then you just keep doing that. It's like a roller coaster over and over and over again. It has
As
not
hearing
changed
that,
in over a century.
that's what we're trying to teach here. Pay attention.
Yeah, like you get
Yeah.
to know 6 years, 7 years in advance. And because crypto operates in the smaller cycles, and as every technology kind of gets faster and faster, and there's more printing of the Federal Reserve and the central banks, you're just going to have everything become more expedited. I think one thing I might have said earlier, but if I didn't, I'll just repeat it, is I feel like the tech stocks, the NASDAQ, kind of like handed off the baton to crypto. So this is kind of like we're in the process of seeing the good and the bad for the first time, and we'll really know what is going to be used in the future and what's just going to go away and had no utility. And this will be kind of like the next 6 months to 1 year where we learn that. We saw Amazon take an 85+% correction back in the dot-com bubble. People were making fun of it. People were calling people losers for investing in it. But then look at who waited and held their positions. I mean, geez.
Yeah,
Or if
making
you
fun
bought,
of us, with our McDonald's hats, right? Because we've lost so
yeah,
much money.
yeah, exactly. So that's a thing to tell people. Like, if you're holding onto coins right now and you're in a loss, I mean, if you really have conviction in those projects, not that you should have any emotional connection to this, but if you do have, built an investment thesis that has told you with confidence, okay, I know I'm at a loss right now. The market's probably going to keep going down for at least a little bit, but I'm aware, these cycles repeat. And to be patient, to not panic sell and freak out and get all emotional and lose your mind, just to be open-minded to the fact that every time you have blood in the streets, well, that's a moment to kind of consider, if I have fiat on the sidelines, I should probably deploy that. And if you don't
Yes.
have any fiat and all you have is your crypto positions, please don't just go ahead and panic sell all that shit, because in 5 to 6 years, that'll be like a new retirement fund for you.
Go fishing, guys. Enjoy life. Go see nature. Don't
Right.
trade. I got a person. Someone here is talking about ETH-W and ETH-Fair. Do you have any input on that? Don't worry if you don't, because it's so new. You might not have time to look into it yet, but we just got copies of everything over here.
That wouldn't be wrapped ETH, right? That's a totally different thing.
No, that's ETH proof of work, and ETH-Fair is the new one from Justin Sun that are copies of Ethereum. ETH-Fair is proof of stake. ETH-W is proof of work,
Right.
and then you have the Ethereum proof of stake. So now we have 3 chains of Ethereum. And it's getting out of control. And now we have pulsechain coming too.
Yeah, actually, so I'll say that I don't know anything about ETH-W and ETH-Fair, but I am interested in pulsechain, and I'm interested. I do believe that I learned a little bit on that Crypto Coffee interview, but and he was very nice to have me on his platform as well. But the hex technology and all that stuff around that, it's really new to me. And it was until I had that interview with him that I was introduced to that community. And they've been very nice to me and welcoming and open-minded. But I still am not too sure about the differences between pulsechain and the actual hex project in and of itself.
Okay, well, Hex is just a smart contract on Ethereum,
Mhm.
and we're just going to get a copy of it on pulsechain. The reason why Richard made pulsechain is because we were getting beat to death with fees. I had that stake that I took out last September. It cost me $600 to unstake that. So Richard said enough
Right.
is enough. We got to launch our own chain, and we're just going to copy Ethereum. So that's what pulsechain is. And all ETH POW is the guys that said, look, we're the ETH miners. We want to continue a chain. So they kept it. Then they launched ETH POW. And then Justin Sun, I guess he wanted to get in on the game. So he's launching ETH-Fair, which is just like ETH proof of stake. And it's just a big mess right now. But look, I got like $30,000 in airdrops so far for free money,
Great.
just because I have all my everything that I have just got copied over. It's not that it has the exact values at the current time, but there's some liquidity on everything. And so if you guys want some free money, it's over there waiting for you. That's all. That's
Wow.
what I have to say about it.
And pulsechain also kind of has something to do with like duplicating other cryptos. So it'll be like the pulsechain version of like Theta or like Chainlink, correct? Is it
No,
something similar?
it's just like Ethereum. It's Ethereum, just faster and more throughput. So just think of it as Ethereum on steroids. That's all it is.
Well, somebody was telling me something about a hex project. I don't know if it was pulsechain or not, but it was like copying or duplicating other cryptos, but just on that chain.
Yeah,
Kind
everything.
of like,
Everything's going to duplicate.
okay,
Everything that's on
so
Ethereum is coming to
what I
pulsechain.
said is correct about that, right?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting. Is there
Yeah.
something that you're aware of that's advantageous about such thing? Is it just for the fees? Is it just for the like
Well, the reason was because of the fees, because we were getting slaughtered.
right.
Everybody was, not just hex people. It was
Yeah.
anybody who had a smart contract. And if you tried to do a transaction, your fees are through the roof. They still are. I mean, you still have to pay
Yeah.
$12, $13 to unstake something, whereas right before the pandemic, we were still paying pennies. So something needed to be done. And this new proof of stake Ethereum, they're not going to fix the fees. As soon as the bull market comes back, the fees are going to go through the roof again. That's just
Right.
the nature of the beast, just like Bitcoin did in 2017.
Yeah.
So, and do you have any
Yeah, I
ideas
mean
about
it,
the? Someone asked about the price of Bitcoin too. I want to let them. I don't want to pass that question up. If you have time for that one,
price of Bitcoin in what regard?
in the future, what you think is going to happen?
Oh, yeah, like post Shemitah.
Yeah.
After the okay, yeah. So I mean, the technical level would be about 12,500 to 14,500. That probably is like the technical level. Um, but what I will say is, if you study the Shemitah that happened in 2014, the 2015 cycle, when we got through Rosh Hashanah, Bitcoin actually went up, and all the indices kind of took like a little bit of a leg down. So Bitcoin was like decoupled from the indices at that time. I'm not saying it will happen again, but that's pretty damn interesting, you know? Like that's the only data we have of the last Shemitah when we're talking specifically for cryptocurrency, right? So I'm not here to say that we can't go lower than 17,000, but if I was to give a technical level, once we break 17, let's just say if we start to have daily closes below this wick of 17,500, we're probably going to start to test the zero point 0.5 fib from the last cycle when you're pulling like a fib retracement tool from the 2017 high down to the selling climax low of December 2018. And if you have that on like a fib or on like a logarithmic scale with logarithmic setting turned on, it's going to show you around 11,500. That's about like as extreme to the downside as I would see. And I think it would be like a wick. So that wick can actually be bought up just like the C word wick. If you remember back in the March crash, where we literally had a V-shaped recovery that was back to, normal prices within 2 months.
Yeah, it didn't take long at all. It
No.
was
And
beautiful. It was
when I
glorious.
when I compare that crash, when I compare the selling climax of the 2018 December bottom, and then I kind of like take all things considered with the last Shemitah and how Bitcoin literally just went up in a straight line at the end of Rosh Hashanah, it's kind of telling me that, well, first and foremost, my work is a little bit more esoteric when I speak on Bitcoin because Bitcoin is, in my belief, created by Satoshi Nakamoto, who's Saturn. And this has to come back to mythology, and Saturn is the Sabbath or the sabbatical, which comes back to Shemitah. Also, if you notice, Bitcoin hits its all-time highs around December, or Q4, let's just call it, and that has everything to do with Saturnalia, which is another Roman holiday. So, not to get too crazy, but that is a very important thing to note. Now, with that being said, I would not be surprised if the crash that we get soon happens fast. Like I'm talking very similar to the crash that we got with Black Monday or the pandemic crash. Like I'm talking about fast, violent, like, and it's going to be a market reboot. It's going to literally be bought back up. I think the Fed's going to come out again and just be like, we're printing money for this one, guys. And they're gonna do it for the stock market, but I don't think they're gonna allow it with the housing market. I think they're gonna let the housing market come back to normal.
Wow.
But I
All
think
I
there's
got to say
still
is have your buy orders in, folks.
right. Yeah, and you guys got to know this. Like, if Bitcoin keels over to 14.5 and starts to close dailies below that, we're talking about coins are going to go to zero left and right, like quicker than you could imagine. They're gonna like a lot. It's gonna. You could also tell. Like, I want everyone, if you're interested in what I'm saying to you right now, you want to be looking at things like USDT dominance, USDC dominance. You want to be looking at ETH dominance, XRP dominance. You kind of want to see how the market's rebalancing, because when we get this crash, if Bitcoin goes to 14.5 or lower, we're probably going to see a return where Bitcoin dominance goes back up to like 60 to 70% within weeks. Like you're
Yeah.
talking about just a spike, and it's going to be a deflationary event. We're going to see precious metals take a shit. So
Yeah.
people that are interested in precious metals, you might even see silver below $10 for the first time in a while. You
Yeah.
know, and
Since when I first
I've
started
showed
buying in 2006, that's when I
right,
was
and
buying.
I have the TA to prove it. You know, so like people that are interested in all this stuff, you know, these big moments are huge opportunities. You know, because they're short, they're fast, but you definitely need to have orders set. I mean, we don't even know how the exchanges are going to behave on these days because we've been through it, right? Like, I mean, even when the market was going up and it was very bullish, we were seeing left and right. There was so many of these exchanges going down, Binance getting maintenance, crypto.com, Coinbase getting weird. Um,
Yeah.
and all it
Use the
takes is,
Dexes. Waters. You got to people have to start moving over to the Dexes. Dexes don't shut down, right?
oh, that's a great piece of advice. Is there a particular DEX that you think is better
Sure.
than others or?
Uniswap is great for if you're just making market buys. Now, if you
Right.
want to set up, if you want to use set limit orders, then use matcha.xyz or CowSwap for Ethereum network. They work great.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
No problem. They don't even have to worry about the exchanges. I haven't used an exchange since pre lockdowns.
So how are you converting back to fiat?
I don't live in the United States.
Mm,
Uh, I have alternative methods here in this country. This country is
awesome.
amazing. Panama is the banking capital of Central and South America. So we got lots of little places that sell and buy and that kind of stuff. It's really cool.
I need to come visit someday, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've been here 12 years, so it's like
Oh,
it's fun home
wow.
now.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, I mean, having those experiences in life are really, yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, someone's asking about the ETH drops and how to get them. Yeah, go watch KG. He's I don't know what his channel is called, but he's got some really good videos on how to use the ETH proof of work, so you guys can go in and claim your tokens and trade them and those kind of things. He's one of the hexagons. Yeah, there is no claim. It's just that they're in your ETH wallet, right? It's the blockchain. So if they're already in your ETH wallet, then you got a copy on ETH proof of work, and you can go trade them. It's just like you would on the Ethereum blockchain.
So Randy, I would love to know over the last 20 days, how has this experience been going of live streaming and breaking down the Shemitah? What are some of the key points that you've been coming across?
I
And
got goosebumps, man. It is the best experience I've ever done. I just had the idea. I was looking on YouTube. I was doing searches, and you're one of the few people talking about Shemitah. There's a couple others, rabbis, that were talking about it, but
Mhm.
nobody was doing it. I said, look, I wanted to get back. I just got back from a 3-month trip in Europe. And I said, you know what? I need to get myself back in the game. And I'm one of those people I have to go overboard to do something. So I say, you know what? I'm just going to do 30 days straight of countdown for Shemitah. My wife's like, why? I'm like, baby, watch what happens. People are going to be so
Yeah,
interested in this. She goes, I don't think so. Look, right now tonight, you got 180 viewers right now. People are interested. They want to know. I think people are just tired of the same mumbo jumbo they hear on CNBC and Coin Telegraph and these kind of places. They want to know what's really happening. And because I grew up religious, this just was right in my wheelhouse. I
yeah,
had the tools. I knew all this stuff. I just needed to put it on video and start talking to people about it. And the gratitude I'm getting back is so amazing. I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I can't wait till tonight. Can't wait to get on stream. It's so much fun. I'm loving it.
that's amazing, man. Yeah, like I talk about that all the time and how that's your purpose. Like your purpose is whatever you do in the present moment that makes you feel alive, and everything else is static. And like it's exciting for you to take part in.
Absolutely. Someone said, what do you think about the housing market bottom? Well, I think that's still got a ways to go,
Yeah,
in my
yeah. I mean,
personal opinion.
the housing market topped out already. I know this. And we're of course when we have this conversation, it's very isolated. Like the market in Texas is probably not going to take as dramatic of a hit as like something, you know. So, although I do think Texas is going to get much worse than it was back in like let's just say oh 08, right? So we have to compare. If we want to play the game of compare and contrast, then sure, we could kind of look at it from that regard. But what I'll say is the S&P, I think, has a lot of room to go. And when we start to see that break support, when we start to see precious metals and like pretty much everything as the DXY starts to shoot up, that's probably when we're going to notice the bigger, deeper correction with housing. And another thing I could say, and perhaps well, I don't think Randy would notice this because he lives in Panama, but
Yeah.
the people who live in America, perhaps, you're probably getting mail every freaking week from credit card companies and mortgages and just like all of these banks trying to get you to open loans and to open up credit cards. So the banks are thirsty for giving you debt. Okay. Because no one is opening up accounts. Nobody is buying houses right now. Nobody is taking on debt. All right. So this is they're sweating, okay? And when they start to sweat and these interest rates are doing what they're doing, like this is a tail sign of get ready. There's going to be way more downside in the housing market. And because people don't have any money, what are they going to
And
do? And
the
the
rates are
big
going up to the
difference
right.
And the big difference between today and let's just say 2019 through this time right now, and we're talking comparing it to the housing bubble of that 2006, 2008. What's really different right now is you need about 25% down on a house.
That's
Who has that
ridiculous.
cash? Like who has
Especially with
before
the
the
prices.
right before the pandemic, like the average person didn't even have $500 for an emergency, right? But back in '07, when you wanted a house, they were like, "Let me just check your pulse. Like, can you write your name? What age are you? You didn't
I was
even need a
living in
fucking
Tampa.
credit score.
Like, I
Yeah,
was
you
in
didn't
Tampa
even need
during the
a
whole thing. It was crazy.
yeah,
Strippers were having 6, 7 houses.
yeah,
It was like it was
exactly. Exactly. They were like, can you just give me eye contact for 10 seconds? All right. You're alive. Sign here. Here's your
God.
here's your 6-bedroom house. And
The
it's
memories.
so it's way different today, right? It is way different in that regard. You need 25% down or more in some instances. Um, and because of all that funny money that was printed initially, we did get that meteoric rise in everything. It's an everything bubble,
Yes,
as I like to call it. But there's just really isolated things that I think need to go away. Like, for instance, the shitcoin market needs to completely get evaporated. We do need to see some of the ghost corporation kind of stuff in the tech industry to kind of rebalance itself. I even think things like Tesla are going to get hit super hard. I think Tesla's going to technically, like when I look at that chart, I think Tesla's going to get slammed, So people that are thinking they're cute with all these tech stocks, like they're not going to have a great time in the next 6 months if they don't wake up to what we're talking about today.
I hear you. I hear you. Hey, we got a question here from James. Could you explain a correlation of relationship regarding biblical and historical timelines between Daniel's 70th week? He's talking about this. This is the 70th, right? The 70th Jubilee. That's what he's talking about because a lot of the evangelicals are talking about this, and so are a couple of rabbis. I don't know if you've looked into this. Feast of Trumpets and astrotheology. Have you looked at any of this? I don't want to go too deep on the religious side of it because people are
Um,
thinking the Messiah is coming back, those kind of things.
oh no, I've definitely not looked into that at all. But when you said 70 years, are you discussing the Queen's Jubilee?
No, this is the 70th Jubilee. This one right here that we've just hit.
So
So
70 cycles of 50 years?
yes, no 70th cycle of I guess would be 49, right? 70th of
Yeah.
49. So
Yeah.
that's
So
what's
we're
happening this year, and I thought that was really. I just saw a video on it this week, so this is very new to me as well.
Yeah, that's
But
considered an age, right? Like an eon. I think it's
yeah,
3,500 years. So it's like
so
the difference. It's like a transition of age. Yeah, that's very
cycles.
interesting. And yeah, that's a very large time horizon, guys, because I mean, if you go back into like the 1700s, you have a hard time proving stuff. Like, I mean, honestly, most of history it's called his story. It's make believe, like a lot of the stories you get, they're actually astrological stories. And they just take archetypes and they call them the archetype that's taking the place of the mythology. It's so amazing. Like if you look at the Greco-Roman system and how they implemented it into the courts, into money, into all these little aspects of our reality, down to the birth certificate, social security number. So not to get too like off the beaten path, but I do not know about this 70th week thing. I'm very interested though if it has anything to do with
Yeah, 70th Jubilee.
mhm.
So we're talking about BC. It's
Yeah.
going way back, guys.
Yeah, you're talking about 3,500 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's from when the Jews first left Egypt, and that's when it starts. They
Right.
were, so that goes way back. I respect you, Waters. You don't have to go that far. You do great. You're doing great with just the near term stuff. It's
Hey man,
amazing.
I'm just trying to have a good day today, like
Yeah,
3,500 years ago.
yeah, that's what he says.
But
He's right. Yeah, 70th Jubilee. Yeah, that's what he's talking about. Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, okay, so one thing that I think is fascinating is how in Judaism they're using these cycles of seven. So of course the number 70 is huge because it's 10 cycles of seven. Now, one thing I'll say that could be adding more worth to the conversation, and it might help this person James out with seeing the way that I'm perceiving. When you think of numerology, okay, you have the number 9 represents everything. So the number 0 is like the cosmic egg. It gives birth to all the numbers after it. 0 represents nothing, and 9 represents everything. The number 9 represents spatial infinity. Okay. So when you get to 10, you're just restarting the number system and you're going back to 1, but you can never go back to 0. Okay.
Mhm.
So what's so fascinating about the Queen having the 70th year Jubilee, the Platinum Jubilee, is how her last Shemitah, let's just say, when she was queen for 63 years, this was her 9th cycle. Okay. So of course she was gonna die on her 10th cycle, because that is the end of the numerological cycle. Now it goes to 11, which is the master number. And that means the next 7 years that we have, which we're talking about the 7 good years, the 7 bad years, this next 7 years, starting on the Jubilee of 2023, and specifically Rosh Hashanah, this upcoming end of the Shemitah, this is going to be the most transformative time of any 7 year cycle that we could possibly talk about. Like, honestly, guys, like this is it. This is it. All right. And the queen passing away, whether it's real or not, I really don't even care. This could be like a hologram for all we know. But when this individual passes away with all this numerological significance tied around this date, you know, this is telling me that we just entered a new age, like a new cycle in and of itself. And we knew about Pluto's return. The last Pluto's return was in 1776 on 4th of July, the start of the nation of America, of the United States, right? And then we just went through that on 2/22/2022. Again, that 222 significance. So the final thing I'll say about this that ties it all together, it's like a mind-blowing concept, but we're about to move into the Hebrew year of 5,783, which I'm calling
Yeah.
Jubilee. And
Yes.
5 plus 7 plus 8 plus 3 equals 23. And 23 is the 9th prime number. So again, 9 is the number of spatial infinity. It's the number of everything. So this Hebrew year of 5783 is going to be the most epic Hebrew year that we will probably experience ever.
Whew.
And the next Hebrew year after that will be a restart of the cycles. So we're talking about like like if I was to break this down into words, it would be like the word restructure comes to mind, reset comes to mind. Kind of like Shiva energy, like destroyer and rebuild.
Yes. Yeah. As my mom was saying, my mom tells me, we have our private talks and we have we have some amazing conversations. She says, "Don't worry." She goes, we just need to go through a reboot or like a restart.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh yeah. Okay, Ma. And now you're saying it.
Yeah. Well, I'll call it like this. Like, I remember playing Sega Genesis like a lot when
Yes,
I was a
sir.
kid.
Yes,
Like,
sir.
and like, like when, but there was another one. What was it? Nintendo. There was one that came out before it. I remember playing too, but you had to blow on it. Remember, you had to like blow on the
That was
cartridge to
Nintendo.
like,
That was
yeah.
Nintendo, the original. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. So I'm thinking like this is what happens. Like that's why you need to have a reboot, because this technology, like all this shit that we've been doing, it's just like it's done. Like it needs to. It's failing. It's reaching its end. It's reaching its expiration date. All right. It's reaching its expiration date. It has mold on it, and it needs to just be redone. And the way that they're going to pull this off will be probably with a new financial system. So we know yeah, exactly. Central bank digital currencies, essentially like a fiat like stable coin. I have my own theories around how that's going to roll out. Probably not as draconian as some people might think, but I still think we have time. Like I said before, I don't think we're going to enter this crazy 1929 like environment. Okay.
Right.
The reason I feel that way is because, like I said, where I was able to predict the May 2022 would be the end of the pandemic, it was because of this significance of numerology and the depth of that I trust that way more, okay, than gold bugs and all of their emotional nonsense that they have on Kitco News. So this is their like promotion of their, taking referrals on selling gold coins. But there's truth that people need to see a layer behind. Like, it's not to shoot my shot. It's just to say that the Great Depression 2.0 is going to probably come in the next Shemitah. All right. It's not this one. This one, we're going to have just the layout and restructuring of the foundation, and it'll be public. They've already given it to you. You just had to go research it. Like, so all the World Economic Forum shit, CBDCs, like, that's out there already, right? But you had to go look for it. They're not just talking about it on Super Bowl commercials. When you start hearing it in like Super Bowl commercials and like the way that they're teaching people about 5G, that is when we're going to start to have Great Depression 2.0. And I think that's going to take some time. It's probably going to be a completely different world. It's going to be different in the next 7 years. We know this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I just think things like metaverse are going to be kind of like a norm over the next.
Remember the
like
movie? Do you remember the movie with Bruce Willis where everybody was in their chairs and they're in like this metaverse, but all the robots were working, and the cops were robots. Everybody was robots, but everyone just stayed in their house in a chair.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Plugged
I don't
into the
remember the
system.
name.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it either. I can't remember, but that was Ready Player One. That's an actual video game one. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. This feels like where it's going, right? And next Shemitah, you know how the WEF says by 2030 you will own nothing and be happy.
Correct.
Yeah, if you're right, the next Shemitah is going to be in 2020. Wait, 7 years.
2028, 2029. So I made a video about this, and I don't actually think it got that many views. Like, it wasn't as popular as some of my other stuff, but I called it the year of the moon key. And like literally the moon and key, and it's just it's the word monkey, and the Chinese year of the monkey is going to be in the next Shemitah. And I've been connecting this Chinese Lunar New Year of the tiger to all of my work this whole year as well, connecting that to the mythology of Jupiter. So if people really want to get into my work, like my last 10 or 15 videos are there for you completely, like for free on YouTube. Go check it out, because you're going to see all the machinations of what's going on here in a deeper perspective than I could possibly share on this interview. But speaking of the next Shemitah, and remember how the last psyop that they gave us regarding the C virus was the monkeypox. Okay. So I'm just trying to tell people, they're giving you, that's predictive programming for the year of the monkey, the next Shemitah, which I believe will be the start of Great Depression 2.0. It is 1 century later. And I would not be surprised if it happens to the day. That's how predictable this shit is. That's how predictable this shit is.
People need to pay attention.
If you look at Spanish flu and you start taking the key dates of Spanish flu, you're going to see it matches 2020 perfectly, even to the day it ended. Okay. So that's another thing that comes back to the Bible, and it's not to get religious, but it's just to say that it's like a playbook of the elite, and they use these cycles, these numerological significance in the cycles, because they're not creative beings. The people that are running the show, they have no emotion. They are bloodthirsty parasite vampires. They don't care about humans. They love blood ritual sacrifice. So they're actually, like, I don't want to call them Luciferian or Satanist or anything like that, but they're using the Abrahamic religions in a way with the text to kind of have a playbook, because they lack creative energy. So
I've wondered about that. I've actually wondered about that. I'm like, are they just copying what they see in there?
Correct. So when you learn about things like Revelation and all that kind of stuff that's going on, like, they're just giving you the truth, but it's coded, and you need to have the eye to see. Like, you can't be looking at it like a simpleton. You can't be looking at it as somebody who's religious, unfortunately. You have to be looking at it as somebody who's conscious. All right. And again, like, it's not to go there, because you could be both. Of course, you could be very enlightened and illumined and also have a lot of influence from religion and be completely happy and love your life. But what I'm trying to say is that it's written in parable, guys. You can't just be reading the Bible word for word and expect it to be the truth, because it's deep. It's very esoteric. It's very deep. It's meant for the eyes of decoders. And this is why it's important that when you're analyzing the Bible, you must be reading it yourself. You cannot have it be read to you by a pastor or anything like that. You must read it yourself, and you need to read it with these lenses. So all of the playbook of time and the ages and the decades and the Shemitahs and the jubilees, that's all pre-coded and it's right there. It's available for us. So that's what makes my work so fun to do. Like I love it because I don't really feel like I'm doing something new. I feel like I'm just like a paleontologist of the past, like, like digging
Yeah.
up around the bones and showing you the skeleton.
I thought that I lost my religion, right? I grew up reading the Bible every morning before I went to school, all through junior high and high school. We were forced to read the Bible every day for 30 minutes when we woke up in the morning. Um, and it really, now that I look back on it, I'm like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I've got a lot more knowledge than most of my friends. And when this stuff comes out with the Shemitah, and I'm like, oh, I can go find that stuff. I can find that history, and I know where to
100%.
look. The Torah, even though the Torah is just the first 5 books of the Bible or 7 books, something
Yeah.
like that. I've read those all probably 15 times, even though this person beget this person beget this person. It's like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's but reading the stories of Samson and hearing that, it just prepared me for all this. And
Mm,
now I feel like now this is my time to share what I've learned throughout my life and pass it along to other people. And then what you've been doing it now for a couple of years, and now I feel like it's okay. It's time for me to pick up the mantle and start helping people to find out our identities and our past and what we've been through as humans, and just help us protect us and maybe save a little money along the way.
yeah. Well, I mean, protect the most important currency, which is your soul.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
the Bible part of it is amazing because that's where I got my name, Waters Above. Like that's in the first couple pages of Genesis. It speaks about this. And when I read Genesis for the first time, and I grew up not personally atheist, but my mom was atheist. So I didn't, of course, you're a child, you don't choose things. You just go along with whatever the hell, you're taught whatever. So, but anyways, because I grew consciously and was illumined in the way that I was and always seeking truth and knowledge and this desire for wisdom. When I read Genesis personally for the first time as a non-practice, like a non-religious person, it like brought me to tears. Like it was one of the most emotional, incredible experiences of my life. It connected so many things that I would have never anticipated. Um, but anyways, my bigger thought behind it was that people listen to my work and they say like I'm against like anti this, anti that, but I'm like, dude, my name is Waters Above. Like I literally got that from Genesis. Like I'm not here to pick sides. I'm here to be a part of the holistic, like the unity consciousness. My only issue with religion is when the religions are fighting against each other, when they're only focused on their differences. In my opinion, we should be focused on the thing that brings us together, which is love.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would I
Absolutely.
would I would love for more rabbis to reach out to me to talk to me about what's going on, like, and maybe I could help them with my work. I think that would help the Jewish community immensely, because how many people that are in the orthodoxy or whatever, like whatever part of that particular religion, and very few of them are able to be self-sufficient and free because they're wrapped up in these smaller communities, and it's very controlling in some sects, and it's sad to watch. If they would be, there are some rabbis that decided to wake up to what's really going on and started to expose some of these things that are happening, like with the Jesuit order and with Zionism and its control of the banking system and the influence of entertainment. I mean, there are some badass rabbis out there that have decided to break free from that spell, and their
Yeah, fight
work
back.
is it, exactly. And that's where it's unfortunate where people target religions and say negative things and treat it like this group think, when in actuality it's just individuals, and we need to kind of look at it for the wisdom that each religion has within it. Don't get upset and angry, but if you're a part of a religion and you see yourself starting to be divided, it's no different than the political division or the division of the wearing a mask or not wearing a mask or any of that shit. It just keeps coming back to the same thing. And I think what makes the elite continue to win century after century is by keeping us divided.
Absolutely. Do it. They have the same playbook over and over and over again. Um, Let me see. Franklin he had a question about the African religions. I don't know what it's. Franklin, maybe you want to go into this a little bit more or play into this like the Orishas. Do you know what the Orishas are? by any chance? I
No,
don't know
and
that.
I mean, well, I mean, if you, that's a really difficult thing to. It's a very not vague, but it lacks context. Like, I mean, Africa is an interesting conversation to have because if you were to ask people like in Burundi, like, what continent do you live in, they're not going to tell you Africa. We're talking like Mercator maps and like the design of the globe with borders and countries and basically that's like global banking and global control, mapping out places and allocating them proportionally. But what I can say specifically about Ethiopia is fascinating. Ethiopia is like
I was married to an Ethiopian. I spent about a total of 4 months over there, dude. We got so much in common.
oh wow. Yeah, I love Ethiopian food, but like Ethiopian food is my favorite food, by the way. Like I love
That's
that stuff. Actually,
awesome.
I just ate some Ethiopian food yesterday and the lady there, she was trying to teach me some of the language and it's amazing. But anyways, my bigger point is that there's a big debate over Africa whether it is called literally Ethiopia. And that might be the entire continent that we know of during like the Moorish Empire and some of the stuff going back to Babylon. So any religions that are based around that area were sun religions, like they're religions of the sun. And it seems that the Hebrew influence specifically was in that area, that area of Eritrea and Ethiopia and like that kind of, and then it spread throughout. Like those are the original Hebrews, right?
Yeah,
Which
I've
is
been to
different.
Axum. I went to Axum, so
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I've seen that is right on the border of Eritrea, way up. You
Yeah.
can't even go because they have a civil war happening. But I
Oh,
went there
damn.
back in 2007. But I'll tell you what, man, you go in, you see those obelisks that they built, and you're like, "Oh, Queen of Sheba had some pull." you know, she was a strong chick, And I got to go to the church where you just stand outside where the supposedly the Ark of the Covenant is because you can't go in.
Yeah.
But it's oh man, God, dude, that country's amazing. If anybody ever gets a chance to go to Ethiopia, I highly recommend it.
Mm.
Highly recommend.
Yeah. So I mean, when we talk about religion and also we talk about Africa, it's really difficult because it was an infiltrated continent. It was infiltrated by colonialism and it was basically parasited. And that's my best word I could use. And the semblance of the original cultures, wherever you could find them, are some of the most profound and interesting. And I mean, the architecture there. I mean, look at Giza Plateau. Look at all that stuff. That stuff is aligned with the cosmology. It's aligned with the cosmos. This was not built by the humans we're looking at today. This is a different thing we're speaking on. And their version of mythology is something that I was super fascinated with regarding Egyptian. That's probably where my work really took off with comparing the mythologies to cryptos, and that's a very unique part of my outlook on what's happening here. But anyways, yeah, I wish I knew about the Orishas because I don't. Thank you so much for bringing that up to me. I would love to study it, and just to come back to the concept of religion in Africa, it's an infiltrated continent that was injected with Christianity, and that comes back to the Vatican.
Always,
Yeah.
bastards.
Yeah. So I mean, it's as basic as that. It's like the Vatican parasite just went there and took it over, and it is what it is, sadly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Ethiopia is badass because Ethiopia was the only fucking country to be like, this ain't happening. Like you could try your best, and that's why Haile Selassie is considered like a god.
Yeah, and it was crazy. You go to all the churches, and this stuff is older. Most of them are older than the Catholic Church.
Yeah,
They have
you look at the
paintings in there.
architecture, bro. You look
Yeah.
at that architecture, bro. That's not being built by normal people. Like you see these townhouses people are building. Like what the fuck? Like you go back and look at that stuff, and that stuff's in a third world. What we're calling third world and like poor and this, that, and the third. I mean, this is the most sophisticated architecture. I don't even want to call it architecture. It's like art.
Yeah, they have churches that you can't see that are built into hills, like
Yeah.
down into the
Right.
hill, and in the shape of crosses, and you have to like
Right.
cry. Oh, God, if
Well,
you guys could see this stuff,
that's probably
yeah,
excavated though.
yeah.
Like
That one was, yeah,
there was and that's a whole other conversation about mud floods and about like our past reset and this world going through lots of change regarding, so that Randy, that could be another part of the food conversation and why the
hmm
elite are trying to control the food supply and logistics and do all the shit they're doing there because they're legitimately preparing for an actual natural I don't know how to say it, but like a reset. What I believe is land liquefaction.
Really? Think
Yeah, like
California's going bye bye?
not necessarily California, not necessarily California, but I just think the ground beneath us is going to start to get softer, and it's going to start to liquefy, and we're just going to see change. Just the heavier rains, landslides, flooding. I mean, the flooding is undeniable. Like, look at the
Yeah,
past 5 years; it's historic. We have the data. There's no opinion here. It just is what it is. I mean,
yeah.
you go
You're
to the
expect
Great Lakes, you could see the Great Lake areas. There's just like chunks of the fucking land just breaking off, trees just breaking off of Lake Erie and landing in the ocean in the lake. So we're watching slowly this change. And actually think about this, Randy. Like, that might be a big reason why they've parasited places like Africa. Africa might be one of the only fucking safe places to be during who knows?
Well,
Maybe
look at the
that's why
bushes. Look at the
Mm,
bushes. They got tons of land in Paraguay, way up in the hills of Paraguay,
yeah.
and South America. You
Have you
know?
seen any footage of not I think it's Turkmenistan. There's a
Yes.
city there. Bro, there's a city there that literally looks like it has Solomon stars all over it.
Yeah.
It is insane, and no one
People
lives
have no
there.
idea. Yeah, no one knows
It
why. They're like, "What is
no
this
one
place for?"
Yeah, no one lives there. I forgot the name. I wish I could remember it while we're on this stream. I'll find it while we're talking. Or if you have
Yeah,
another question that you're pulling up.
yeah. So what he's talking about, there's a city that's built. They just from scratch, and nobody's living there right now, and it's absolutely
Oh,
beautiful.
it's Ashgabat.
Ashgabat, is it in Turkmenistan?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
This
was like
this place
what?
has Solomon stars all over it. Okay, these like what people call the Star of David or whatever. But like, there's just Solomon stars everywhere, like in the middle of the street. I mean, you got to remember, this is sacred. This does come back to sacred geometry and these kind of ideas. So this is a protection symbol. It's also a symbol that is kind of a portal. It's like a
Mm,
manifester. It's a bringer in of energy. It's a protector of energy. The combination of blue and white together, like you see on the flag of Israel, that's another conversation about like frequency and color. I don't want to jump around too much, but anyone should look up Ashgabat, because this is like a reset city. This is a place where they're going to repopulate with the elite. Like, I know
and,
they're
there,
going to do it.
and how about all these cities in China that they built
Right.
and they're totally empty? Maybe those are repopulation cities as well.
Yeah. They're setting up for something, for there to actually be like physical change of this realm. And when that day comes, they're going to have an exit plan in place. They already know where they're going to relocate. I think that's why like people need to be more open-minded to just being flexible right now, to get back to the utility of the conversation around preparation for Shemitah and Jubilee. Like, this is a great time to be flexible, guys, to not be making big long-term commitments to shit, like, really be ready to get on the move if you need to be, be
Yes.
ready to be tactile and elusive, because the people that weren't like this in the 1930s or the 1920s, I mean, life was not too fun for them, especially if you lived in Europe.
Yeah, they had too many problems. Then war after war after war.
Yeah.
Wendy Shift is asking, what is he must be a little bit, I think he came in late. What is your waters above mean again? You said you got it from Genesis?
Yeah, it's from the beginning of the Bible. In Genesis, it talks about the waters above being separated by the firmament, and the firmament is the heaven. So my name literally is just talking about the waters above the firmament, which that's just biblical. And not actually, that's not just biblical. We're talking every single ancient civilization. You look at ancient Egypt and you see she is the firmament who holds the stars, she is the heavens, and above that is the waters above. You look at the Mayan culture, the Toltecs, you look at anything, and you're going to see a firmament dome. The Vikings had their own version with Yggdrasil, the tree of wisdom. So this is something that I kind of connected, and I thought it would be a really a name that aligns with my personality and the way that I perceive what's going on here.
I'm just amazed. I know everyone else is here too, but I want to respect your time. You've been with us already an hour and a half, bro.
Yeah, I have a little. I carved out time for this because this was the
Okay.
first connection we have, and I don't normally do these interviews this late, but you're the only person that's ever reached out to me that also covers the Shemitah. So
Okay, that's
this will be
awesome.
this will be before I have a week of a lot of work regarding my upcoming videos. So yeah, I have some more time if you have some questions or anything.
Someone said, one of our hex scans, damn it, what about my 555 stake, the 15 and a half years? Well, you'll be getting after the Great Depression of 2030.
Wow,
No.
15-year stake.
Yeah, well, we all have those. That's pretty common in hex land.
Oh,
I've got probably a million hex staked out about 15 years, between 13 and 15 years. So that's pretty
wow.
normal for us. Yeah, we're earning yield. No worries. We get it. I get a whole bunch of stuff all the time. So no
Yeah,
worries.
well, that's super interesting. I mean,
I love it.
clearly this, I don't know if it's Richard Hart that's up to all of these numbers, but this man is clearly into numerology, without a doubt.
He's into something. And every time I watch your videos, it's uncovers something else for me. And then he did that video
Yeah,
recently about September 15th. And I
yeah.
remember then September 15th ended up being the fork of Ethereum when it became proof
Oh
of
yeah.
stake. And on that
Okay.
same day, ETH proof of work came out. So that, and you said it had maybe something to do with Hex. And Hex has been the top performer, the top crypto performing on the new ETH proof of work chain. And people are like, how is this happening? Because we have skills, people. we've been using dexes and stuff for so long. The hex community has, that when a new chain comes out, we just add in the numbers and add the chain to our MetaMask, and we're playing within 5 minutes. So Richard's been teaching us for so long how to do this that we don't need exchanges. We gave up on exchanges. So yeah, I mean, Hex is only one of my coins, right? I'm an OG.
Yeah.
I have other stuff too, but Hex has by far been my best performer. That's amazing.
Have you interviewed Richard Hart?
No, I have not. I just talked to him privately, but I
Okay.
was the guy who was writing articles about Hex back in 2019 when it launched. I was writing for Crypto Daily out of the UK,
Mhm.
and I wrote like 3 articles, and then they fired me because I was writing Hex articles.
Dang.
Andreas Antonopoulos called me out, called me a scammer, and all these other people. I'm
Nice.
like, yeah, all these people I know. I knew everybody privately. We've known each other for years because I used to go to all the meetups and
Yeah.
the Bitcoin shows and all that. People, man, the second I did it, I lost thousands of followers on Twitter because I was involved in Hex. But you know what? You guys don't pay my bills. Hex did.
Yeah,
So
that's the attitude, man. Like whatever's taking care of you and your family, that's what matters, right?
yeah, exactly. And the community is amazing. So friendly. Yeah, there's fights like every family, but that's normal.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
uh,
I think it's interesting that Hex finally shifted on CoinMarketCap to 202, because again, that's the 22 significance that we've been talking about this entire,
that's amazing to me. It's
but
always right there.
it was 201 forever, and the 201 makes total sense because in Gematria, Saturn equals 21. And
Mm,
that is what hex is. Hexagon is Saturn's hexagon, and it's undeniable.
man, goodness gracious. Now you got me going again. All right. So the 24th, did you see that German guy in Parliament make that comment about 24th of September is going to be a day that everyone will know where they were? Have you seen
Yeah.
that?
So I had an interview this morning with another channel, and they were asking me about that, and I told them, I mean, if anyone who follows my work already is in here, you're probably used to this. Like when people come at me with dates, I'm like, I give them the least sexy answer, and it's as simple as like if they're gonna tell you something specific, then it's bullshit.
Okay.
Like
All
this
right.
is if they come out and straight up just tell you something, like then it's like a look here so you don't look there kind of thing. So if something does happen on the 24th, I could tell you why. All right. And this is where I give the more sexy answer. Okay. It will be 2 days before the Shemitah ends. And this is back into the twos theme, right? So the 24th will also be a 21 date numerology. And that 21 comes back to what I just said earlier. Saturn in Gematria equals 21. And the 24th is a Saturday, the day of the Sabbath. It's the day of Saturn.
My
So if
God.
something is going to happen, guys, it's because of that. And I'll tell you one final note, a more esoteric note. is it's the 24th, and that number 24 has a big significance with Jupiter, because if you look at the zodiac logo of Jupiter, it's the number 24. Okay. And Jupiter is tied to tiger because Jupiter is the striped planet, and we're in the Chinese year of the tiger. And I've been telling people this whole year that this Shemitah is like the battle between Saturn and Jupiter. And this is a mythological story. You know, Zeus overthrows his father. So we are living through like Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader fighting.
Amazing. Hey, and I'm a year of the tiger kid. So,
So that is like really, that is like what's going on right now. We're in that energy. That's why we're having conflict. That's why we're having like all this, you know, like all this stuff going on, this excess stuff. But I do think it's really funny how all these people over the past day or so have come to me with this September 23rd and 24th date, because somebody else was showing me there's movies, like tons of movies that are talking about, you know what I mean? So
yes,
I got a bunch of the decoders that are in my community over on my Patreon, because inside, whenever anyone joins my level 1 Patreon, they get access to a Discord server. And in that Discord server, we have a bunch of different Gematria decoder channels. So once in a while, I'll just go, because we have crazy talented decoders in our community, like people that are really, really damn good at what they do. So it's great for me because I'm busy with my work to just pop in there once in a while. And I popped in there the other day because people were tagging me about the 23rd. So, you know, the 23rd, 24th, like it's right there at the tail end of Rosh Hashanah. Like, of course, something's going to happen. I mean, whether it does or it doesn't, we gave you all the reasons, you know. Like
I told my wife, I said, if there's anything you want to do this week, you got to get it done before Thursday, because we're not going out at all until the following Tuesday.
Yeah, man. I took all my credit card points, like my rewards points and all my cash back, and I just put that shit straight in my bank account. I'm like, I want to like do as much as I can to just be prepared to move quick, you know?
You sound like us. We're doing the same kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We got cash.
Yeah.
We got some stable coins. I have no liquid crypto at all.
That's good, man. Yeah, I'm super into credit cards and all that shit. And I know that the credit card market is about to go wild. So I think we're gonna see some interesting stuff, and I'm ready for it no matter how it goes.
Dude, this has been an amazing stream. Seriously, I don't want to keep you longer. I think you got everybody on the edge of their seats, and everyone's got a lot to chew on here.
Yeah, man. Well, I really appreciate you giving me the platform, and keep in touch if you ever want to do another round 2 after the end of the Shemitah. Maybe that'll be a good time to reconnect.
Let's do it like after Yom Kippur. Let's say like sometime in October, or when is the solar eclipse that's coming up?
So the solar eclipse is going to be on the 25th of October, and then we have, within the next 2 weeks, we have the total lunar eclipse of November 7th, and that's really what I've been focused on, Randy. I've been focused on the 7th of November. And if you remember, Elon Musk put out a tweet like a little bit ago, back when the gas prices were first really spiking, and he showed 7-Eleven showing gas price at $7.11. And I think he was doing, like, I again, this guy's a troll, but like, I think he was flexing. I think he was trying to show us that this eclipse is going to have something to do with some of that restructuring and chaos that me and you have been talking about today.
Yeah, because he's an insider. Definitely an insider.
Well, he doesn't run his Twitter account. He has a handler. All these elites, like they're not doing anything. Like they're not allowed to have free reign over. They don't have sovereignty. Everything is controlled. You know, it's pretty obvious. You could tell even with Elon Musk in his interviews that he is not articulated with his speech. He's like trying to remember what he was briefed on before. He's like a president, you know? He has a very similar. Well, I mean, just look at the way we're talking right now. Like I could talk to you for 5 hours straight and I'm not without any second of pause, right?
Yeah,
when you listen to Elon Musk, and it's like he can't even. This guy's supposedly a genius who knows everything he does, and he's a engineer. I mean, no, he's not. He's clearly not. He's trying to remember the shit that he was briefed on before he took that interview. But anyways, my point is that this is called predictive programming. He's giving you breadcrumbs that lead you to the loaf of bread. And I do see him being used as a vessel for those sorts of things. Okay. And we know that there's something to come. And if we really wanted to narrow it down, the eclipses play a huge role in this market, because if we look what happened on December of 2021, everything took a correction, but Terra Luna went up.
And
right?
then it crashed.
And then it went to $119, which is 911 in reverse. And then it crashed to basically zero. Okay. So this happened when it crashed was around a lunar eclipse. So,
and we got another one coming.
Yeah. And the final thing on that idea is that we have seen historically the difference between a lunar phase and a solar phase. We are still in a lunar phase. And because Bitcoin is a solar coin, it's a coin of the sun, it only does well when it's in a solar phase. We're not going to be in a solar phase until April eclipse and May eclipse of 2023, right?
Ooh.
So I am personally using between this next big move till that April timeframe to rebuild my portfolio, to like kind of use that as a restructuring timeframe, as well as the we talked about the halving. But to get back on track, that eclipse I think will be similar to the 87 Black Monday event. If we see the market behave until late October and make it through that solar eclipse without going much lower, I think we're going to have a catastrophic just fall off the cliff moment in early November. Yeah. That's just how I've analyzed it. And
I was going to start DCAing in October. Now you got me spooked.
Well, it doesn't. Well, don't go off of the timing. Go off of what the market gives you, right?
Right.
That's always how you want to play this game.
I'm kind of hoping that we have a typical Shemitah on Monday when the market's open and we have that big capitulation candle.
Yeah. Well, typically you'll see a lull 29 the day before Tishri 1. You'll see that be the day that you start to get the destabilization, but that'll be a Sunday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm sort of thinking that by the Friday, the day before, or sorry, the market close, leading into the week, you know what I mean? Like leading into yeah. So we're gonna see that probably be like the tell sign of how we're gonna move into Monday, right? But the fact that Rosh Hashanah is a Monday is really frightening, like when you think about it, because it's gonna be everything open. I'm excited. I mean, I'm just stoked because I've been prepping for this for 2 years now. So I'm like,
exactly.
It's like keeping me awake at night sometimes, Yeah.
My wife says to me, she goes, we were over in Europe and she was saying, Randy, you're stressing me out because you're so paranoid. I said, I'm not paranoid. I just want to get home and prepare for Shemitah. I want to get ourselves a bunch of supplies and do it. It's like, I'm like a kid in a candy store. It's like, I know something that other people don't know. That's coming. So I want to be prepared and be able, so the family, when the shit does hit the fan, they come to us and we're prepared to help them. Nobody else is going to help them. The government's sure the hell not going to do it.
No, there's no instrument for them to help people. There's only instruments for them to help their friends. And that's called the banks.
Jeez, they're not going to help.
Yeah.
No. Oh yeah. Well, someone said maybe something on November 9th, reversal of 9/11.
Yeah, absolutely. And this, again, it's the 2-day window. I keep saying this. So we have the 2 days before the 7th and the 2 days after, which will be the 9th. Anything that has a value of 2, guys, you got to pay attention to. So tomorrow. I'm going to be heavy.
What about tomorrow?
Yep,
September 22nd.
Tomorrow is the 22nd. Yeah, tomorrow is the 22nd. It's also the day leaving 100 days left in the year. So, there's definitely going to be some action. But anyways, I'm going to be focused a lot onto content around the Shemitah as I have been. And it's great to see what you're doing. I really appreciate the work that you're putting in for the world, and appreciate everyone on this this live stream that's joined us, and just really great. It's great to be connected.
You've gotten lots of subscribers from my streams because we're always talking about. Everyone's like, "Oh, Randy, are you gonna have waters on? You're gonna have waters on?" Like, yeah, he's agreed to come on. So every night someone's asking about you. So we're like, just go check them out. And RKX as well. You did a stream with RKX, right? ARCHAIX.
Yeah, I did two separate interviews, podcasts with him.
Yeah, he's another one. ARCHAIX. Yeah. So check him out, guys. He's another good one. But wow, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll end it here. If tell everybody where everybody can find you.
So The YouTube channel is the only social media that I have, so it's Waters Above. There you could find me, or Waters Above Crypto, either or. And then I have I do one video a week on YouTube, one podcast every week on my Patreon. And my podcasts, I actually do a full market wrap up, and I cover altcoins. So anyone who's interested in my technical analysis and like overview of more coins than just Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, that's where you'll find it. I do cover Hex actually more often than ever. I think I've done 5 different podcasts on them. So anyone who joins that Patreon, you have access to over 70 podcasts, Discord server, all that yummy stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I really appreciate you. Oh, also my website's watersabove.com. Nice and easy.
Yeah, I was checking that out today. He's got lots of courses and stuff that you guys can sign up and take. So
Yeah, I really appreciate this. Means a lot to me, and enjoy the next week of your chaotic life covering the Shemitah.
all right. Cheers, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks, Water.
Take care.
All right, bye.